Basically, with the axe, what you're going to do is you need to model one first, right? So we'll come in here, make this. It doesn't have to be a particularly great looking axe, but we do want, just your basic axe. So I'm just going to pick a little cube, scale this down, give myself a little blade, move it over here. And then we'll make it a little spiffy looking. So kind of do that. Come on. Click's not being that responsive. That's okay. And we'll give it a little bit of a blade. There we go. All right. So that'll be our. This will be our axe for the moment. And I'm just going to take this too, and we'll go to instead of animation, I want modeling. I want to do mesh, combine. There we go. Now, one thing about the axe is once it's combined, we have our pivot point here, which means when it would spin like this. So an axe being blade heavy, what we're going to want to do is change that so that it'll kind of pivot something around like here, because the weight of the blade is where the balance point's going to be. So now our axe should kind of tumble around the blade, or right around that balance point. So that's the first thing. So now we have the axe and it's all nice and rigged up. And now what we need is a target. And we'll do the target this way. So give me another cylinder. We'll rotate it sideways. Hit R. Squeeze it down. So now I have a little target. If you want to go kind of the way they did, was they kind of gave it a base and a like a little kickstand or something. You could set it up that way if you want to. Not a huge deal. I'm going to set it sideways a little bit, and then we also need to make it bigger. All right, something like this. Matter of fact, I could do. Let's do 3. Let's do 5. Yeah, something like this. And then, if you want to get really spiffy, I'll just go ahead and select some stuff like this. I'm holding the tab key down, which allows me to do a paint selection. And then once I have these selected, I'm going to go ahead and go to add new material. We'll do a Lambert, and then just change that color to red. And there we go. Now I got a nice little bullseye. Alright, so let's pull this guy some distance away. And then pull our axe back. And so what I'm going to have happen is the axe is going to pull back. So we're going to have the anticipation, and then we're going to throw it, have it tumble, and then connect with the board. And we'll probably have a little follow through where it kind of kicks back a little bit, sort of like we've done with the catapult. We'll have it kind of kick back. So what we want to do is, instead of trying to manually animate the toss, what I'm going to do is create a path that the axe will follow to the target. That way we don't miss. So what I'm going to do is go into side view here. Let's frame everything. And then I'm going to go to curve surfaces. And I can use just about any of these curves, but I'm just going to use this first one here, the CV curve tool. And I'm just going to click. 3 points should be plenty. And then now I have a curve. Alright, and then if I go to control vertex, I can control where this curve will be. So we're going to put this basically at the bullseye, and then have it, let's see here, we can kind of adjust this way. Be a nice sort of curve. There we go, and then pull this back. There we go. Yeah, give myself a nice arc. Now the cool part is when we animate this, I can go back and adjust. This is the reason the motion paths are cool, is because once you assign it, you'll be able to adjust this curve after the fact and be able to tweak the arc of the axe. So what I want to do is assign the axe here. All right, I'm going to rename you instead of PQ2. I can call you axe. I want to assign the axe a motion path of this. So what we do is select both of these, go under animation, and then we want to go to constrain, and under constrain we have motion path and attach to motion path. Now see that? So once we assign it, the motion path will be hooked up over here, and now what happens is when you do that motion path, you'll see that it has already assigned a key. So you have these motion path values, and if I played the animation, right, what's happening here is if I play that animation, it's already moving because I had 120 frames selected. It's going to slowly move that axe across that motion path over X number of frames. Okay. And the thing to know about the motion path is if I look at my values here, you'll see my values go from 0 to 1. And as I adjust this from 0 to 1, it controls where it is on the path of that animation. So what we're going to want to have this thing actually do is we want to have some anticipation going on. So we actually want the first frame here, okay, to be a little bit advanced, and then we want to have a slow pullback, and so instead of that moving forward, we actually want the axe to be moving backwards. And so I'm going to go say 12 frames, and then I want to insert a key. So I can go insert key here by right clicking, and then now we can assign this a value of, instead of 0.00, we want to assign that all the way to 0, so that'll be the back of the curve. So now what we have is this, we'll slowly move the axe back, and then we want to throw the axe forward, okay? And so at 1, way over here, it will make contact. We can adjust this. First thing I want to do is definitely make that shorter. So instead of it being that many frames, let's pull this back to like 30 tops. Anticipation, and then the throw. That'll work. And we definitely don't want that ease out. We can slow down just a little bit, but we're really wanting it to fling. So we have pull back and then throw, and that's still roughly like twice what we want. Alright, let's try that again. Let's move this to say 30. Shoot. Yep, that'll work. Something like that. And if we want to have a little bit of a kickback, what we can do is at frame 20, instead of it being 1, we'll make it like 0.95. Say frame 21, we'll insert a key here and change that to 1. And then say frame 22, and I'll back up. Do it this way, and I'll just shift it over. Alright, so shift these over 1 frame, and so this will be, instead of 1, say 0.95. How far back does that back it up? We're going to need to probably be less than 0.95. Looks like it's going to be really, we want this actually to be really shallow. Yeah, something like that, a little, just a tiny little bit. object. Oh, don't be difficult. Yeah, there we go. So we get a little kick wiggle room. So the next step is we start at the beginning, pulls back, and then we have the arc. And like I was saying, the motion path, what makes this cool is I can come in here with this control vertex and pull this way out, and the axe don't care. It's still going to follow that path. So we can tweak, if it doesn't look good, we can always tweak the way that curve works as we go along. So what I'm going to do is let's fix this rotation. Take these rotations here, right click, and I want to break connections. Ah, there it is, break connection. So what that does is it gets rid of, by default, it wants to map the translates and the rotates to the motion path, and by breaking that connection, my axe is now free to be animated along these along the rotation without the motion path influencing it. So by resetting those values, everything's back to normal again. Axe is pointing in the right direction, and I can actually key all these values. So the only thing that's going to change is going to be my rotate X. So we'll go ahead and actually I'll give it a little forward lean. Yep. Lean it forward a little bit. Key selected there. So here's my rotate X. And then it's going to pull back to this point here. And we'll want to rotate. Take that axe head backwards, like something like that. So what do we end up with? We end up with the axe should kind of cock back. And then what we want to have happen is from, we want to throw. So we'll advance, and this is first thing I'm going to do is just give us a broad number. So let's say how many times you think it'll spin? 3, 4. So let's do a 720. Key selected. And so I should have a curve. Pulls back and advances. Now, only issue we have here is our axe is flying backwards. So instead of it being a 720, let's do a negative 720. And so now the axe will be flying in the direction, rotating in the direction that we're wanting it to go. And then this last frame, what we can do is adjust that to make sure that it's stuck, okay, because we want it to end up blade first. So I'll key selected there, and now we have it doing its spin. Now if you notice, it's spinning in and of itself before it launches. So we have to do a little bit of curve tweaking here. So pull back. Slide this one. I'll slide these two. So when this curve here, or motion path curve, the transform translate, when it changes direction, our rotation should also be changing direction. Okay, 720 might be a little extreme because it's spinning like a top. So what I'm going to do is let's have that. Let's try negative, do 360 instead. Doop. Yep, that looks that looks a little better. Matter of fact, let's go back and use that visualize ghost selected, so you can see the way that the axe is actually tumbling through. To hit on target. And then what we want to do is here at the very end, go to frame 21. Rotate it forward a little bit. Key selected. And then rotate it back just a little bit. Key selected. And then the target, turn that visualize off. Target's going to need to move, so let me change my perspective here. So frame 20, it gets hit. So what we want to do is frame 19. I'm just going to go ahead and take all these rotates and scales. Key selected. Frame 20, it gets hit. See, I can move all that over. Frame 20, it gets hit. Frame 21 is when it would react. So move it back a little bit. Rotate it just a little bit. Key those. And then frame 22, it's back to where it was. Command C. Command V. And I'll move that up. Chink. So we have a little bit of just a little bit of a reaction at the very end. So what does it look like? And you can tweak that as you see fit. Maybe a little bit more on the front end. Maybe a faster throw. You know, you can change things up however you want to. So if I was to make this a little longer or a little more anticipation, what I can do is take these frames here. Might as well select this guy as well. So take these frames here. Come on. Slide it forward a little bit. I could also do this in the dope sheet, and then that would give us a few more frames going back, and then we have the advance. And then I can always adjust. You can adjust your velocity here too, so you could make it a little faster, but I would say a little slower would be the way that I would do it. And you're definitely going to want, it will be a little bit slower at the takeoff, because this isn't like a bullet where it's fastest when it leaves the barrel. It's sort of a situation where it is going to need to ramp up velocity while it would leave an invisible hand, if that makes sense. So what I'm going to do is break the tangents a little bit and kind of slide that a little bit. There we go. And the fling. Yep. And so this would be kind of a close example. The neat thing about this is being on a motion path is that you could technically create an animation with that same motion path where your target is way out here and it's still going to be able to reach it.